The Nyaga Threshold. History changes when humanity crosses thresholds of transformation. The Boston Marathon for Global Health 2027 invites you to step into that threshold. Inspired by the principle of Nyaga, the death of limitation, and the birth of new possibility, this marathon is a fully decentralized global movement. You can run wherever you are in the world, becoming a living node in a network advancing global health equity, blockchain-powered biomedical innovation, and the visionary rise of Ubrica One in Kenya. Every mile you run symbolizes the conversion of dead capital into living discovery, endurance into scientific progress, and personal discipline into collective healing. This is more than a race. It is a global rite of participation in building the future of health. Register, run where you are, and help actuate a new era of human and medical advancement. The death of dead capital and the birth of living health. Civilizations do not rise when they accumulate wealth. They rise when they transform the meaning of wealth. Africa now stands at such a threshold. The emergence of Ubrica One, a 4,330-acre biomedical industrial city in Nakuru, Kenya, signals not merely infrastructure development, but a civilizational crossing, an ascent through what Natia philosophy calls the principle of Nyaga, the death that gives life. Nyaga teaches that no higher order can be entered without surrendering the weight of obsolete identity. The seed must break to become a forced seed, must die to bear fruits. The ego must dissolve for Muthumaki intelligence to arise. So, too, must economic systems undergo transformation. Africa's historic disease burden has not been lack of resources, but the imprisonment of value in what Hernando de Soto termed dead capital, land, labor, and knowledge existing without systems that translate them into dynamic investment and innovation. The proposed Ubrica One biomed industrial city is the crucible where this burial becomes resurrection. The biomedical city as a consciousness engine. Ubrica One is not merely a city of hospitals and laboratories. It is an operating system for human discovery. At its center rises a constellation of specialty hospitals and translational research centers dedicated to transforming biomedical insight into therapeutic reality. Surrounding this medical nucleus, industrial parks manufacture pharmaceuticals and medical technologies. Residential communities nurture interdisciplinary collaboration, and cultural and ecological infrastructures cultivate well-being as a living social ecosystem. Here, health is not treated as an emergency service, but as a product of environment, economics, culture, and scientific imagination. This is the embodiment of the One Health philosophy, where human vitality, biodiversity, environmental stewardship, and economic participation merge into a single living network. Like the Nyaga initiate, Ubrica One will actively dissolve the illusion that health can be isolated from society. It recognizes that disease emerges from fragmentation, and healing emerges from integration, blockchain, and the death of economic ego. The technological heart of Ubrica One beats on blockchain infrastructure through the BMIC token, transforming territory itself into a distributed network of ownership and participation. Through tokenization, land and biomedical infrastructure become liquid capital accessible to global participants. This transformation mirrors Nyaga's spiritual architecture. Centralized economic authority, like centralized ego, collapses under complexity. Blockchain replaces hierarchical ownership with distributed trust. Smart contracts replace fragile bureaucratic enforcement with immutable verification. Capital ceases to be hoarded and begins to circulate as a living current. Stoic philosophy long anticipated this evolution. Marcus Aurelius taught that human flourishing emerges when individuals align themselves with the rational order of the cosmos rather than personal domination. Blockchain expresses this stoic alignment technologically. It removes dependence on arbitrary authority and instead establishes systems governed by transparent logic and voluntary participation. Thus, the BMIC token does more than finance buildings. It dissolves economic ego and gives birth to a distributed civilization of shared prosperity. Ubrica One as the Nyaga forge of biomedical civilization. Nyaga insists that transformation requires fire. Ubrica One is precisely such a forge. Africa's historical marginalization in biomedical innovation becomes the very flame through which it develops sovereign scientific capacity. Through partnerships with global academic institutions and local communities, Ubrica One becomes a training ground for scientists, clinicians, engineers, and entrepreneurs. It translates Africa's epidemiological challenges into opportunities for global therapeutic breakthroughs. The city becomes a portal through which local suffering is transformed into universal discovery. This is not infrastructure alone. It is consciousness engineering. It is the awakening of Africa as a generator, not merely a consumer of biomedical knowledge. The Boston Marathon for Global Health, the decentralized rite of participation. If Ubrica One represents the physical cathedral of this transformation, the Boston Marathon for Global Health 2027 becomes its embodied ritual. Unlike traditional sporting events confined to a single geography, this marathon operates as a fully decentralized global movement. Participants run wherever they are in the world: Boston, Nairobi, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, or a village path under African sunrise. This decentralization mirrors the architecture of blockchain and the Nyaga initiation itself. The marathon is not confined to Massachusetts streets. Boston becomes the symbolic genesis point, while the race unfolds across continents, climates, and cultures simultaneously. Every runner becomes a node in a living network of global health solidarity. Running itself is Nyaga made visible. The runner voluntarily enters discomfort, surrendering physical certainty to discover deeper resilience. Stoic philosophy teaches that endurance is the laboratory of freedom. The marathon embodies this Stoic discipline, the mastery of impulse, the embrace of hardship, and the pursuit of excellence independent of external reward. Each stride becomes a small voluntary death of comfort and a rebirth of capacity. Marathon as proof of work for global health equity. Blockchain systems require proof of work to validate truth. The Boston Marathon for Global Health functions as humanity's biological proof of work. Every mile run represents commitment to transforming global health inequity into participatory justice. Through Actuate's decentralized science movement, runners do more than demonstrate solidarity. They activate awareness, mobilize resources, and inspire investment into infrastructures like Ubrica One. The marathon becomes a human consensus protocol where physical endurance validates moral commitment. Just as blockchain distributes verification across nodes, the marathon distributes responsibility across humanity. No single institution owns global health transformation. It emerges through collective discipline. From dead capital to living civilization, Ubrica One and the Boston Marathon together illustrate the Nyaga threshold at civilizational scale. Ubrica One transforms territory into living capital. The marathon transforms human endurance into living consciousness. Both initiatives require the death of obsolete assumptions. That health is charity rather than infrastructure, that Africa is a recipient rather than an innovator, that capital must be centralized to be trusted, that transformation occurs without sacrifice. In their place arises a new order where capital, science, and human discipline operate as an integrated ecosystem. The Stoic city and the global tribe. Stoics believed that every human belongs simultaneously to a local city and a universal city of reason. Ubrica One becomes both. Rooted in Kenyan soil, yet connected through blockchain and biomedical research, It stands as a local manifestation of a planetary civilization of health equity. The decentralized marathon becomes the ritual through which humanity remembers this shared citizenship. Every runner, regardless of geography, becomes a citizen of the global biomedical commons. The Nyaga future, the principle of Nyaga, reminds us that transformation demands surrender. Africa must surrender the narrative of marginalization. Global health systems must surrender hierarchical control. Individuals must surrender comfort to participate in disciplined collective evolution. From this surrender emerges resurrection. Ubrica One rises as the biomedical lighthouse of a new economic and scientific order. The Boston Marathon for Global Health rises as its living initiation ceremony. Blockchain provides the architecture. Stoicism provides the discipline. Natya philosophy provides the metaphysical blueprint. Together, they declare that global health will not be delivered by institutions alone. It will be actuated by humanity itself, running, building, discovering, and co-creating a civilization where health is not a privilege, but the natural expression of distributed intelligence. The race has already begun, and the world is the track. To participate in the marathon, please visit https://actuate.bio/Boston2027.